Okay. Thanks for joining us. We're here to talk about some updates or upgrades, if you will, in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. Obviously, that's the name of the product. I think it's almost safe to say that we could just say Blackboard Collaborate now because we had two versions of Blackboard Collaborate, but we're no longer using what we call the original or legacy version. So Blackboard Collaborate it is, and you'll hear me refer, and you'll see in some of my documentation, I go even, I squeeze it down even more. To me, it's BBC, and that's not the British Broadcasting System, but that's BB, Blackboard, and C for Collaborate. So welcome, you guys. Glad to have you here today. And with us, Sandy, of course, is always on our sessions, but we brought a special guest today. Elaine Vasquez, our subject matter expert with Collaborate, and keeps a keen eye on what's going on with the changes and the feedback. She keeps her finger on the pulse regarding information that flows in what we call a listserv. That's other institutions that actually communicate with each other about Blackboard in general and also Blackboard Collaborate in specific. And before we get too far down the road, I just want to have Elaine say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday.
And I'll share my screen briefly here so we can see our agenda. All right, hopefully everybody can see that okay. I'm actually going to move that over so I can see it better instead of it being on top of everything. All right, and I'm going to make that a little bit bigger so those with eyes, my sharing is paused. Why did it do that? Let me try that again. Sorry. And one more time, probably because I moved it from one of my displays to the other. Okay, can we see our agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the idea for today was to reflect a little bit about Blackboard Collaborate and talk about some new things that hopefully will make it better. And one of the things that I'd like to start out with, if you don't mind, is I'm assuming that all three of you are actually using Collaborate and not using an alternative, but if that's not the case, please let me know. Alternatives being Zoom, Echo, Teams, probably the most popular institutional tools anyway that we have that you can use for virtual classroom, recording, etc. So I'd just like to open it up briefly to everybody and start one at a time. You're welcome to take the microphone or throw something in the chat regarding just the experiences that you've had predominantly in the last year. But if you want to, if for those of you that have used Blackboard Collaborate for a while, maybe speak about how it has changed in the last year and some of the things that you might be doing with it. Also, give us some idea of what you're hoping comes out of this, besides the obvious, learn something new about Blackboard Collaborate. Anybody want to take the floor?
Well, I've been using Blackboard Collaborate. We've had the Ultra, and we really haven't had many problems except screen freezing at times. And the students sometimes use their phone many times, and so they tend to have a little bit more trouble sometimes. But no, it's been going fairly well.
And your use case predominantly, Marilyn, is virtual classroom or other stuff?
I'm sorry, I used the Ultra for the live class.
Live synchronous class.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Kathy, you had something?
I kind of do the same thing, but I've also used it just to make a video to go over course content. Like I use Flipgrid, but that's only 6 minutes. So if I needed to do something a little bit longer, I'm like, oh, why don't I just, and I'm assuming we're talking about Ultra, right? Blackboard Ultra?
Yeah, as I was indicating, that's really all we have anymore.
Okay.
We disabled the original one, so that's a
Thank
new one.
God.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear somebody
Well, as
say
somebody
that.
who used it for community ed a lot, and it was really, really hard for participants. Okay, go here, click this, do this.
Under
that.
user unfriendly.
So this is much more user friendly. Like, hey, just
Yeah.
click right here. But that was one thing. I mean, I was using it as a live classroom when I taught the hybrid in the fall. This semester, I'm totally online. But I found they need a lot of help understanding assignments. So it's really nice to like I'm kind of like, okay, let's house it all. If we're using Blackboard, let's house it all. Let's use all the features of it. Because I think when you move from Blackboard to Zoom, like I did that once and it messed up everybody. Like they were like, what's going on? I will tell you that it is confusing that you already get a room. So if I was a student and I clicked on Blackboard, there is a room. And some of my students last semester kept trying to click that room to get in. You can hide that. I found that out.
Yes.
The
You
other thing
lock
is,
it, Kathy.
Yeah. Lock it. And then the other thing is everything that I recorded, you have to go back in and share publicly. Like that became a new feature, I think last year.
Right.
So
that was one of the things we were going to talk about.
Okay, yeah, those are the things like I need to know. Like I had no idea. And they're like, and then all these students, we can't access it. We can't access it. And I'm like, what? So then I call Joe and Elaine.
They're working on a lot of cool stuff. The team over at Blackboard Collaborate, they hired a whole bunch more people to work on it. So good stuff coming up in the future.
So yeah, so that's how I use it. I mean, just to get out of it today is just to learn. You know me. I want to know all the new bells and whistles so that I can, help everybody out. I think one thing that's really hard for me when you screen share, you no longer see the chat box, and students are very hesitant to open their mic and speak. I mean, I usually would have like one or two students that weren't so shy, but I would have my screen shared for a live session. And I would be going over something and I would hear ping, ping, ping. And I'm like, oh, I can't see the chat box. You need to open your mic and tell me your question. And then one girl's like, we're talking about Sabrina's cat. So we can't disable the chat box like you can in Zoom, right?
Can you disable it?
The Zoom you
I
can.
don't think so.
Yeah.
I'll look into that for you.
It's possible.
The
Wait a minute.
team.
It's possible when you're in the settings area, when you're setting up
Yeah.
that particular session, that
But I don't want to disable it for the entire session because
So it
I
does
only want to
disable.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It does disable. You can just say can only chat with the instructor.
instructor, instead of each other. That's right.
when you're actually in the session.
You can do it then, yes, because while you're in the session, you can always, where you go to do the sharing, Kathy?
Mm-hmm.
One of the tabs at the bottom of that box is a gear, which takes you to settings. So it actually brings you right into the real-time settings of the session. And there should be a spot for you to actually do what
Maybe at the end, if we want to circle back around,
we'll look at that.
Entertain my weird, strange, off-the-wall questions I always have, but that's
okay. And the other thing I want to suggest to you about that in particular is I'm going to kind of assume you may not have two windows, two displays. Okay. If you do, that's really great for an instructor and for doing any kind of screen sharing, because now you could have what you're sharing right in front of you, because right in front of me right now, I'm seeing this Word doc, but over here in my other display, I'm seeing you guys. Okay. And I'm seeing the chat and I'm seeing other things that I have open. So you could literally switch back and forth between what you're looking at on your computer that you're sharing and the actual chat / session in your Blackboard Collaborate. And
I have thought about that. I have two computers. So when I go to grade my coursework, I open my second computer and I pull up Blackboard. So that is an idea and an option, but I'm the mobile one. So to teach, I have to go upstairs to my daughter's bedroom, and and her desk is not that big. And, she's now 15. She's a 15-year-old girl. So she's stuff all over her desk. So the fact that I could find enough space for my computer, but I did think of that. I was like, if I had a second screen and I opened it up, but then because they're two different systems, I would have to, I don't know how that would work. Can I log in twice?
As an instructor, instructor?
Yeah, because Lauren taught me how to duplicate my screen, and that has been like revolutionary. I had no idea how to do that before.
Yeah, I don't know what it would
But if
do.
I have two different systems,
I think if you were on two
I would-
computers and you went in as instructor on both, it would probably tell you
yes,
that you're already logged
you're already in.
in another session or in the session or something.
Yes, and so I think I may have tried that. Now, you know, early onset dementia, I forgot. I think
But
I
you
did
could
try.
always toggle to student preview and then go into that session under student preview.
You can use my bogus username. I think I gave it maybe to you once or twice to log in.
No, you never gave me a bogus username.
Okay, well, I have one or two.
Cat's out
We'll
of the
talk
bag.
after.
But you're right, Joe. If I just went and clicked on the link as like a user, because what I do is I plop that whatever week I'm doing it. I found that was easier too, because I was like before, okay, everybody click the Blackboard link on the left-hand side, and then go to the week, and then I'm like, what do I do? I'll just click and act like a student.
Yep.
But
Lead
then
them
Elaine-
to the water.
And then Elaine, if I can have your bogus username, that might.
Yeah, and then if you want to, I could do a test with you too anytime, like create a
There you go.
session and we can test anything you want. So yeah, well, contact me after.
Elaine is so helpful in like helping me create like identities, because I fall in that weird, I'm community ed, but then I'm also.
Yeah, you jacktress of all trades.
All right, thank you, continue.
Yeah, don't forget, guys, that you're welcome to jump in, drop in, walk in anytime you want, 12:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday in the Zoom session that either myself, Sandy, or Elaine is in during the what is that, a 3-hour session?
Yeah.
Yeah.
12:30 to 3:30.
We take 1.5-hour shifts in there, but and we could always do like that one-to-one play with you guys, role play, if you want to open up a Blackboard Collaborate session and do that during that period of time as well, without any kind of appointment. Isn't that nice? You guys have access to us without even saying, hey, we're going to come and visit. All right. Is Sherry there? Does Sherry have anything to say? I don't know if she's actually with us or is she busy?
Sherry's here. I think
Hey.
I may have lost track of what the questions were after all that. Sorry.
I just want to have an idea what your experiences have been like with Blackboard Collaborate. I know you've probably been using it for a long time, but has it changed much this year? And any particular outcome that you want from today?
Okay, so let me work backwards. I actually just noticed the email yesterday, and anytime I can learn about a product I'm using and any new features, I'm always up for hearing that. So I'm open to anything I might learn new about it today. Yes, I have been using it for quite a while, back from when we were required to offer, I think it was 3 sessions a semester. We had to do all that, and we were tracked if we did all that. So for my strictly online asynchronous class, I currently use it for ability to just kind of first introduce the course, go over the syllabus, and then at the end go over my final project. And then typically for that class, just use it for any kind of, if I want to just create a short video that's, hey, here's something that I forgot to tell you you're struggling with, and or then for office hours or meetings with students and things like that. What I am finding with that class, though, is I used to have a set time that here's when I'm going to go over the syllabus. If you can join me, join me. And if not, I'll record it and have it for you. It seems like the expectation that they have to meet synchronously at all just blows their mind. So I think I might just start just doing that as a general recording and kind of let it go like that. And then for the blended class that I've been teaching the last 2 semesters, I use it for our weekly meetings. And I like it better than Zoom because of a couple of features. You can watch the chat more easily, I think. I think I just like to keep students in the Blackboard shell if I can, as opposed to other tools. And I too, kind of like you talked about, I like to offer my class from my office on campus because I have a dual monitor there and just use a laptop at home. And one time on a snow issue, I met with them at home and I ran into a couple small issues with sharing tabs when I would share my desktop and things like that. The only issue I've had in the recent was when I would sometimes share my desktop, I would have like that rabbit hole effect. But I can't remember who, I think it might have been Lauren or someone, maybe it was you, Joe, showed me how to manage that. And when I have two monitors, it never happens. So that's why I just kind of stay on campus whenever I can and use it in that way. And I have very few problems. I've really enjoyed using it.
Great. So I know Marilyn didn't say anything about recording, but Marilyn also knows about Echo 360. I don't know if either Sherry or Kathy are Echo 360 users, and making recordings in Echo 360 is like making recordings in Blackboard Collaborate, but it's on steroids compared to Blackboard Collaborate because it gives both the faculty and the students a lot more value added when watching those recordings. But I'm very glad to hear that some people are actually, making recordings for a couple of reasons. One of them I heard, maybe both of you said something about orientation, course orientation. That was something that we know that some people did previously, but we were really trying to get a lot more people this spring on the bandwagon for that because of what we heard from the students in the fall with the survey was they were a little confused. People's classes are different from one instructor to the other. So the idea of providing some type of understanding through a video, it could be through other mechanisms too, but through a video, because while anybody heard me say this, I don't know if I've coined it, but I like to say, if a picture tells 1,000 words, you show them the actual walkthrough with a video, then it's certainly great. And I see my internet is unstable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on. But before we do, I just figured I'd show you this quick video. And I don't believe that when I shared, I optimized. So let's make sure we do that so you can hear the video. Optimize screen sharing for video clip. All right. So now let's see if I can find it. I got so many windows open as I always do. Ah, here it is. And just a little retrospective. Oh, I see that for some reason my sharing is paused. And I got to go back and share that again. This time I'm going to do my entire screen so I can flip from one thing to another.
In today's world, students and professors need to be more digitally connected to their coursework and to one another. Fewer in-person interactions can often make students feel isolated and disconnected from their learning experience. We know it's hard for students to be there in person with all of the other demands on their time, like raising children and juggling work or internships. Sometimes conditions out of their control make it completely impossible to attend class. They need a dynamic tool that allows them to be actively engaged virtually, participating in classes, working on group projects, and meeting with faculty face-to-face no matter where they are. And it's not just students that need to be more connected. Professors often have to juggle many responsibilities, and they need easy and efficient tools to connect with their students and help ensure their success. Enter Blackboard Collaborate, the one-click virtual classroom solution. Built specifically for education, Blackboard Collaborate offers a level of connection and engagement that makes students forget they're not in a physical classroom. Accessing Collaborate is easy for both students and faculty. Just launch it from any LMS, like Blackboard Learn from the BB Student mobile app or right from your browser. In Collaborate's virtual classroom, students can engage directly with each other and with professors, participating in video chat discussions and raising a virtual hand to get the professor's attention, as well as answering live polls. Collaborate is highly, collaborative, allowing professors and students to share their screens with each other and divide into breakout groups in the middle of class. Students can also discuss additional ideas in the optional class chat room when there's more to be said. Professors can promote students to a presenter role where students can share finished files and documents from other computer programs by using the Share Application function. The intuitive interface is also entirely mobile-friendly, putting access to video, audio, and written content right in the students' hands. Blackboard Collaborate allows them to have real interaction so they feel less isolated and more connected. We know that creativity is not limited to a classroom. That's why there are tools to facilitate brainstorming as well. Professors have their own digital whiteboard on which they can write, draw, and illustrate ideas. They can share their screen right from their computer and use the virtual pointer to highlight specifics. Outside of class time, professors can hold virtual office hours, tutoring and mentoring sessions, and even join or lead departmental meetings. As the most accessible solution in the market, Collaborate ensures that no matter how students learn best, professors can reach them. During class, professors can easily enable a live captioner for students, ensuring accessibility for those who are deaf, hard of hearing, or not as comfortable in the primary language. Collaborate also uses a color scheme that can be easily viewed by people with low vision, and with its support for keyboard navigation, magnification, and screen reader technology, it provides a fully inclusive learning environment. Blackboard Collaborate makes it fun and enjoyable for students to learn whenever and wherever they are, and empowers faculty to give more students more opportunities to learn and succeed. Isn't it time our education technology was easy, enjoyable, and as globally connected as we are? Find out how you can get Blackboard Collaborate.
Okay, I didn't intend that to be a sales pitch whatsoever. There are two things that I wanted to get out of that is I often find that most faculty, I shouldn't have used the term most, but faculty sometimes just don't realize some of the things that are there. Well, case in point, before we got started today, Kathy Kashner said, "What are you talking about, content collection?" It's obviously a tab right on the Blackboard landing page, and one thing that she never noticed. So I think it's always good to try to point out some of the features and items that are in the platforms we use, because we only ever scratch the surface of the capabilities of any one tool.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Oh my God, you all are so nice and so patient. You need to let Office of Disability know that there's a live captioner, and is that in regular or is that in, because I've never even touched Echo 360.
Yeah, so keep in mind that they're doing more to automate the capabilities of captioning in Blackboard Collaborate, but right now that live captioner means that somebody literally has to be a part of the session that does captioning. Let me let Elaine speak to that briefly, because she's actually not done it herself, but scheduled people to do this on a regular basis when needed.
And Elaine and I work on that together, because I have a
Kathy
student
and
who
I
needs that. But I got super excited because that is one thing that is in Flipgrid. In Flipgrid, it will do a captioning, and then I go back and I watch the whole video and I make sure that the captioning is what I want it to say, because it'll say wanna, and I'm like, all right, I got to get better at want to.
Sure.
So I got really excited. Okay, but you're saying it's still basically, Elaine, it's basically what you and I already do.
Yeah, but Joe will speak to this shortly. Coming up, they're working on it, the team, a much better captioning for Blackboard Ultra Collaborate. And Joe will tell you about that coming up. So this will really probably make your life a whole lot easier.
If you want to say anything about that now, Elaine, go right ahead, because I actually didn't necessarily include that in any of the content that I've created so far, but do you recall what it was? If not, I can
yes,
bring
you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share that with the,
Sure.
I'm going to email it to the participants today.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see exactly step by step what is coming up, instead of me taking so much time going through it. Would that be okay with all of you?
Let me just ask you something, Elaine. I know that when we work with Echo 360, they often say that the roadmap information isn't necessarily public information. So is that okay from Blackboard's perspective?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the meeting and they said,
okay,
let people know what's coming up.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I just didn't know if you.
And even if they wouldn't say it, I'd share it anyway.
Okay, gotcha.
With our guys, yeah.
Just with you on that. Okay. Now, the other thing that I found interesting, this particular video obviously spoke to many things related to our quick move to remote learning and remote instruction. and which just happened obviously in 2020. But if you can see my screen, take a look at when it was actually created. February of 2017. So it's been a tool for the times, if you will, but we haven't necessarily have jumped on the bandwagon, except for Kathy and Sherry in this case, to realize the other benefits it can be and how important it has become in this particular environment. All right, let me go back to the document agenda. I'll just rescreen that one again. And tell me if this is still blurry, please.
Looks good.
Good. All right. So just briefly before we get right into the actual good stuff, I found this rather interesting as well when Elaine and I were getting together to talk about the session. And one of the pieces in the roadmap that she attended back in early March talked about what happened over the year. So I've titled this, "What a Difference the Pandemic Makes." I feel the same way about Echo 360. Our usage, the people that are in it, the amount of videos has more than tripled just in the last year in Echo 360. So it's really amazing. But this just gives you a quick view of the variety of things that are happening, obviously, and how much those things have increased. And who was it that said, I think it was Marilyn, that said some of your students are actually joining virtual class synchronous sessions using a phone or a tablet, and they can do that. Is it always the best experience? Maybe not, because they might have some limited capabilities on a small device, never mind the fact that it's just small. I guess I'm going to show my age when I say I don't quite get how people are so concerned about getting a 5G phone so they can watch all types of movies on their phone. I just wouldn't do that. So being in a virtual classroom feels like almost the same thing, and I wouldn't want to do it that way either. But you know, everybody does what they do for various reasons. But I think the experience in mobile with Blackboard Collaborate Ultra has been very, very good from the feedback that we've gotten. Marilyn, let me just ask you, do you know of any particular issues that some of your students have had with the mobile?
Well, I'm in class, the students are on break now, but I'm in class, they froze. They kept freezing in that. And then it's very funny because they said, well, the print's too small for us to read. And I'm like, I said, we'll go to the computer. I do try to post anything I'm using the night before, but of course they don't always look, but it's more the freezing part that's a problem.
Okay. But, and you're saying that's kind of specific to the mobile?
I would say that it is more the mobile, but I would, out of a classroom, I would say we see freezing twice out of the 2 hours.
All right. And they usually can just reattach, right?
They can.
Reconnect.
They can.
Okay, good.
And sometimes it's not doing the procedures that they need to do. They didn't update or they didn't empty and all of those things. But they're working on it.
All right. The flavors of Blackboard Collaborate, we already talked about a few of them, but nobody mentioned doing breakouts. The fact that, and I guess what I'm thinking here is I mentioned other tools, and I'm thinking of advantages of Blackboard Collaborate over Zoom, for instance. Zoom does have breakouts, but it's a little bit of a different beast in Blackboard Collaborate. What the big thing I think that Blackboard Collaborate gives us that Zoom doesn't is that you can actually set up meetings just for the students, or the students can have access to their own meetings. Indeed, in the groups, if you have Blackboard groups, they actually have their own Blackboard Collaborate tool within that group if you give them the permission to use it. So I think that's one thing that's really good about having it fully embedded in the course itself, and that the students have easy access to everything right there in the course too.
So I have classrooms set up for them to study in and all of that. And I was surprised that they were really using them.
Good. I'm glad to hear that they are. Yeah, I don't think we want to give out our personal Zoom account so that students can do that. do it. The interesting thing about that, though, is students may have Zoom access in the near future, according to ITS. So, all right. So some of the recent and upcoming upgrades are listed right here. They're not, this isn't the only thing, but I thought what I'd do is I'd bring up the actual upgrade release product that we have. And before I do that, I'm going to show you a Padlet that Elaine has put together and let her speak to that a little bit. And I can do some driving if you want to, Elaine.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, so we can share this link with you as well. And Joe probably could put it in the chat for you.
Yep.
So if you would click on this, is a snapshot of everything you need to know about Blackboard Collaborate. The first one is very important. Their support, 24/7 help. I think, I don't know if any of you guys ever used it, but they're pretty amazing. I mean, they have solved a lot of issues for students and faculty within minutes when you get a hold of them. I mean, they're excellent. So that's important information to know, and they're good 24/7.
And not many places share their phone number with us anymore.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yep.
And the next one, the Collaborate continuous updates. When you click on that, I update this continually. So whenever you click on that, you'll be able to see everything new. I know Sherry said something she really wants to know what's what. We're trying to figure out how to get this information out to everybody when new stuff comes. We have a newsletter now that Sarah does for our OLET team. Does that go in NCC Today, Joe, or where is that?
No, because what has happened is we're not restricting it. That's a bad word, but we didn't want to send it out globally to addresses by email, and it's the best way to supply it. So what we're doing is we're having faculty or users opt in to, there's a form that you can fill out to request access, and then you'll be put on the distribution list for it. I'll have to mention to Sarah the next time I talk to her to say, maybe next week, for instance, in Today at NCC, we could actually just showcase it one more time and make sure that people are aware that it exists and give them the link.
I mean, why
to
can't
that
it go
opt-in.
into NCC Today?
I think it has something to do with it. It's more of an email friendly type of product, but I'll check with Sarah on that. I can't remember what her reasoning was.
That newsletter is really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, here's where you'll find all the release notes and what's coming up. So this
Just
is what
keep
Joe's
in
going to
mind,
speak to today.
yeah, I've got my own version of this because this version actually includes some things that may not be addressed to faculty. Like this is for us internally, administrators, previous institutional reports and stuff like that. So some of this information is not just faculty or student related. It's actually administrative related too.
Yeah. So here's where you'll find the most recent updates and what's happening there.
Elaine, these are in effect. These become effective on the 8th, correct?
April 8th. Yes.
Okay.
April 8th.
Well, that's the most recent update. I'll talk about that in a minute. There's some things that we're going to talk about today that are already there.
Yeah. Okay, then the ultra quick start guide next, Joe. Oh,
right there.
Sorry. Yep. Yeah, this is in Course Arc. It's really good. Lauren put this together, so you could click on this. This is an online quick start guide for Ultra Collaborate. Lots of good stuff here. Everything one-stop shop here.
I could see this hasn't been updated since we basically have gotten rid of the old version. So this probably will need a refresh, but it still gives you some fantastic information.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see, which one you want to go to next? The links, the Ultra Blackboard help links.
Naturally, you can find some of this stuff right inside Blackboard help inside your course if you want to.
Yeah, this takes you right to it. And if you scroll down, you'll see everything also you need to know here step by step. I like the way they have it highlighted and everything. It's very user friendly to go to this page, but they have a whole, this really gives you, if you're confused sometimes about course rooms or groups or joining sessions. This is really important.
Kathy mentioned this
Yeah,
before,
that's good.
and you can turn off the course room.
Yeah.
Let me just say something about the course room, Kathy, that while you can keep it locked, it's not a bad idea if a student just needs some help, like, right now, that you can unlock it and say, hey, just go into that course room for an ad hoc session, so that you don't have to go through the steps of actually setting up a meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very good
Thanks for letting me know that.
Yep.
Yeah, but usually with my students, we're like scheduling specific time together. So,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
No, I don't know about that. The videos, Joe.
Yeah,
I
this is
think breakout groups, but there should be more videos in here.
Okay.
So I thought, I'll get that updated. That should be taking you to a host of videos. I don't know what the link must have changed.
This one's about creating recordings, right?
Yes, this is everything you need to know. I love that page. That's fantastic. And then this one is troubleshooting, which we all have run into with audio and video. So this is an excellent tool for troubleshooting and how to get through it in case you can't reach one of us or the Blackboard 24/7.
And feel free to take some of this information from the Padlet and share it with your students if you think that it can be helpful. For instance, like this troubleshooting the AV issues, because sometimes that's one of the primary things that students have problems with. It's gotten a heck of a lot better since the old version of Blackboard Collaborate.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Our security built in the browsers sometimes gives our students a run for their money. They don't realize that they have to allow the microphone, allow the camera, and a few other things on occasion as well. So, and it's different from platform to platform, like Mac versus PC and Safari versus Chrome. So everybody's got their own experience kind of, and depends on the version of the web browser that they might be using too. Okay, cool beans. All right, so what I'm going to do now is switch over to the guide that I excerpted from the one that we saw previously, or a moment ago. Let me bring this over here. All right, hopefully you can see that okay. Let's make that a little bit more zoomed in, and now you can see it better. So just note, I think this is the primary feature that we're going to talk about, which is not quite ready for the presses yet, but you'll see that it will come out next week on April 8th. And this is probably the biggest one that I've heard in our conversations with faculty of why they haven't used Blackboard Collaborate. They chose Zoom because Zoom, you get that beautiful Hollywood squares and you can see everybody. And we haven't had that opportunity with Collaborate, but now there's going to be a gallery view of 25 blocks or videos from your students. So you can sort of have a pretty good bird's eye view of the class in its entirety, should you want that. Hopefully that would be something really good that you were looking forward to. They are also in the process of upgrading the capabilities in Blackboard Collaborate. And let me just talk about that briefly. Elaine mentioned that, they're working hard on making changes and making improvements. And again, going back to the pandemic and what it has caused, more than the obvious, is all of our ed tech vendors are panicking in their own way to improve their wares so that they can be top notch. It's a very competitive environment. So the one thing that's going to come out of this is all the tools that we use are just going to be better and better because of it. It has provided more emphasis, more focus, more speed in making these improvements in all the platforms. So saying that in regards to Blackboard Collaborate, while it may not be the best of breed today, that doesn't mean that within 6 months, we find an article in one of the technology magazines that says, hey, people prefer Blackboard Collaborate over Zoom. But again, it has its place and its reasons. And I think it's really great for this classroom environment compared to Zoom still. and we'll
I
see
just
what
want to
happens.
say, oh, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Joe, I
No,
just
go
want
ahead.
to say in the meeting, the people working on Blackboard Collaborate, their number one priority is stability. So
Right.
because they're sometimes slow getting out with the new features, it took a while for them to get to the gallery view. Stability is their number one priority. So that's probably why you see a little bit of slow forthcomings with new features. But I was happy to hear that because I think they number one priority, and I do think stability is very important.
Yeah, going back to that one image that I showed regarding what's happened over the last year with Blackboard Collaborate and the increase that they saw. We've heard some horror stories about other LMSs, other video platforms, other types of tools that, you know, I don't mean to sound so um, apocalyptic, but, you know, crashed or didn't perform like they were supposed to, or they had downtime all of a sudden on St. Patty's Day of 2020, when everybody all of a sudden started hitting it. We were very fortunate, and Blackboard was a staunch, reliable platform as an LMS, and Collaborate had very, very few problems too. I remember initially they pulled back on some of the features so that they could maintain that stability, but I don't think that we had too many problems with people creating sessions and having sessions and Collaborate from about near the end of March of 2020 till now. So they're obviously putting product and emphasis on keeping that stability and adding more things that they need. And in a lot of cases, that's physical equipment and other components to keep the usage high and maintain the ability for the quality and the expectations that people are going to grow to have as we rely on the platform. All right, so this is a view of the gallery view. It kind of looks like Zoom now. And as you can see, you can move from one sort of screen to another with this little arrow marker to the right. And you can actually change views. You can have speaker view or gallery view, which you may have seen already. And there's a tiled view as well. Okay, one of the other cool things is, and I don't know how many of you actually use the whiteboard, but the whiteboard is getting some legs. It's becoming a little bit more robust. It was never that much of a focal feature in Blackboard Collaborate, but they're making it better. So not only is it easier to see it, but yeah, there was something as simple as just trying to eliminate one item on the whiteboard previously, and now that has gotten easier. It's easier to delete certain things and to make them stand out a little bit more. So the next time you use, and this will be coming up again in next week, but the next time you try to use the whiteboard and the editing tools in the whiteboard, hopefully you'll see some improvements there. Any thoughts about using the whiteboard in Blackboard Collaborate? Okay. This was something, I don't know if anybody's ever had to do that or had a problem with it, but they decided to make sure that people didn't get inadvertently removed from the session, because it's an option right there when you're in your participants panel, or attendees, I think they call it in Blackboard Collaborate. Anyway, this is the other big one. Already Elaine mentioned how we can get great support from Blackboard Collaborate, and they even have a phone number, but now they have a chat bot. And I don't know how many people are aware of it, but it's there. It has been there since, what was it, January or February, Elaine? I think.
Yes, it was the last update.
Okay, so this one just indicates that there's a lot more places where the chat bot can be invoked. And you could see it's just sort of a side pop-up when you're on a particular page. So if a student gets disconnected, they can obviously choose a reconnect button, but if they're having more of a problem, that they can use this chat bot to try to resolve it almost immediately. So that's a really great thing. This is kind of what it looks like if you actually go to the My Settings area, and you can pick up the chat bot there while you're in a session. Kathy, this is what I was referring to, where you have your settings button and you can change those settings regarding audio, video, and other types of things within the current session that's running. Or
All
you
right,
can
thanks.
make those settings what you want them to be beforehand as well. All right. Here's just a particular area where the student or you can actually indicate what type of problem you might be having while they're in the session. I don't know if this is something that's ever happened to you, but for those of you that do make recordings, have you ever not had a recording show up? Or you're wondering where it is? It turns out that if you don't close out of the session, the recording may not finalize on the Blackboard Collaborate server. So for that and for other reasons, security and other things, what's going to happen now is any session that remains open longer than 8 hours will automatically be disconnected. And typically none of us probably have sessions that are that long. But if you actually have an open session and you forget to turn it off, it will be disconnected automatically. But fortunately, if you really are in a session that long, attendees can rejoin if that's necessary. And it would indicate that here.
That's been out for a little while, and we have had no issues or complaints about that yet. So that's promising.
Yeah. I can't imagine that there's too many sessions that you'd want to have open for 8 hours at a clip. I know that so that came up actually. I attended some seminars or webinars back in late spring 20 or maybe early summer that were actually done in Blackboard Collaborate. And some of those sessions spanned the whole day. And I think they had to restart them at a particular point in time for similar reasons.
That's one of the things you mentioned that they did for stability. They disabled a few features, in order to get better things. So that was one of them.
Somebody mentioned this a little while back, and that it was kind of a surprise to us too, because we weren't being more proactive by looking at the updates and whatnot. But I think it was sometime in September when we were still doing some trainings with Blackboard Collaborate, and we're like, wait a minute, why can't you see the recording I just made? And it turns out that for privacy and security reasons, they turned on a feature where, you really have to go in and say that you want that recording to be available, or you want that guest link to be available as well. I think, again, it was Kathy that said she started putting the guest link into the course on a content page rather than having the students navigate through the Blackboard Collaborate dashboard, which is a great thing to do. And I can't be totally sure about that. And maybe either Sandy or Elaine can chime in on this, but if you take that guest link and you put it in a content page on your course, I do believe that even if you didn't make that link allowed outside of Blackboard as a guest, if you will, that your students would be able to use that link and have access. But let's just say you put it in an announcement or you sent it in an email. They probably wouldn't be able to access either the actual live session or the recording if you didn't allow for that. So that's a real good thing to know. Make sure that accessibility for whoever it is you want, even if it isn't a student, let's just say you have like someone coming in as a guest presenter or something like that. You want to make sure that you ensure that they have access to the link that you send them in an email or some other mechanism.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
I felt like I had to do it 2 times. Once when I created it. When you create it, you have to click that public access.
Correct.
5 foot of my mouth. And then when I went to share the recording, so it was like, just because I set it as public for everybody to click on it the day of our meeting, the recording, and I shared it right in the content. I wasn't, blasting it in an email or anything like that. When I went to share the actual recording, you have to go in and click share public again.
Very good. I don't believe it carries over from the live session to the recording. So thank you for clarifying that.
And I have to go in 5 minutes because I have my department meeting.
Sure.
Um,
Feel free. You have any thoughts before you go?
yes,
Questions?
I just put in the chat box. I feel like I had a situation when we went into breakout sessions, it stopped recording. Do you know anything about that?
That's true. Yeah. None of our tools record breakout sessions that I'm aware of. Is that
Okay,
right,
so-
Sandy?
Yeah, I don't, yes, they all stop as far as I know. I know
All right, so-
Zoom does. And so I haven't recorded anything using Collaborate, so I wouldn't know, but I have a feeling it's the same way.
Yeah, so I got burned the one time and there wasn't a ton of class afterwards, but then I made the comment like, oh my gosh, everybody, I'm really sorry that it stopped recording after the breakout sessions. And then from then on, after we did a breakout session, I just made sure I clicked record again
Very good.
and it does a second recording. But that, I mean, it's this little teeny tiny red button on the upper left-hand corner that it's kind of hard.
Shows that indicates, yeah.
All right, just thought I'd ask that. I feel like I asked another question earlier too. Hold on.
I'm glad you brought that up, though. That's something we probably
that's a
should
good
make
point.
more
Yeah,
people
just make
aware
people
of.
aware of that.
Yeah.
My question was about adding Blackboard to Padlet, and it looked like Elaine did that, so that's not a problem. Or where all those, the things that Elaine has in that Padlet, they're from Blackboard, right? They're not from like YouTube and things like that.
One of them is from YouTube.
Yeah, there may be a combination of things here.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you can share Blackboard stuff to Padlet. is
Yeah.
what I
Oh,
wanted.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, because,
Good.
you can, in a Padlet, you can put up text, files,
Mhm.
links, a variety of different types of things. So anything that you can actually get on a web page, you can put into your Padlet.
So I put like all the OLET stuff in my course in an instructor tab because, we have 8 million adjuncts. What if you're talking about the newsletter? Can the newsletter live in? So I get like announcements from an adjunct resource that I'm in. or something.
Patrick's site, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Can the OLET newsletter live in there?
That's what I asked before.
You did say something about that, Elaine. Did you
Yeah,
talk to
I think-
Sarah?
I think
that
the
would be
answer was
great.
no.
Yeah,
I
you're
think-
right, Sandy.
Remember, because
don't know why.
CTLT puts their upcoming things. Ours, I don't know why, but I remember Beth saying, no, we need to keep it separate and people need to opt into it.
No to opt in. Like, come on, people.
Let's check. We have a
I don't know
meeting
about-
today. Let's ask. Let's bring it
I
up
just
at our
thought of
meeting
something.
today.
I just thought of something, though, and I can't recall if it's actually accessible there, but I don't know if the three of you are aware that we actually have a new website for our group. It's nccolet.com.
Yeah, that
Um,
might,
and
that's,
I
on
put that in
that
my new
website-
Padlet, Joe. I
Oh, you
put
did?
that in. Yeah. I have a different. Yeah, I put that like first. Do you want me to share the link?
Sure. Go ahead and put it in the.
What was that web address again, Joe?
Elaine's going to put it in the chat.
nccolet.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put
And-
it in so you can copy it.
If nothing else, we can probably add the newsletter to that if it already isn't there. I
And
don't know.
Joe, I don't know if you're aware of this, but when somebody goes to sign up for a class, when they go into Go Sign Me Up,
Mhm.
where it says faculty resources and all that, that also takes you to the website, right
Okay.
on
That's terrific.
our new website.
And then when are, sorry, 12:30 to 3:30. When are those dropping out days?
Monday through Friday.
Yeah,
I don't know about tomorrow though. Nobody's
Oh,
yeah, tomorrow's
yeah,
not
that's fine,
really
that's
good. Do you
fine.
need the link? Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, Joe, I put the website in the Blackboard. I
And
have
then,
one.
yeah,
for
Thank
what's that link? Is
instructors,
that in
Okay,
OLET?
hang on.
Yeah, Sandy's going to put that in the
I'll
chat.
put it in there.
Thanks for joining
Or is
us,
that on the
Kathy.
Padlet?
It's
Can you
not on
put
this
that in?
pad.
Okay, thank
No.
you.
Yeah.
And I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you for
Okay.
everything. Bye.
Bye-bye.
No, it's not on the Padlet you're looking at right now, but Elaine has another really good OLET Padlet.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I have to go to back to
Yeah,
clinical.
Feel
Are
free.
you doing the 6:30?
Yes, we're going to do 6:30 tonight. Yep.
Okay, I'll see you then. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Marilyn.
Bye-bye. Blessings.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I wasn't letting you go without that.
All right. Sandy put the link to the chat. I'm sorry, the walk-in that we do every day, 12:30 to 3:30. That's in the chat box, and the link to the new website is in the chat box as well. All right, let's see. I don't think I have too much else. Support for large sessions is going to be happening very soon. Not that too many of us do that anymore. I always like to make a joke. When there's a lot of work to be done, sometimes I suggest that faculty use their TAs. But we don't have TAs for the most part, and fortunately we don't have large auditorium type sessions for the most part as well. Yeah, so that's what this is. I think that's really the main stuff that we wanted to point out. Elaine, can you think of anything else? Do you want me to pull up the roadmap?
You hit everything.
Okay.
Perfect.
Any other thoughts or questions that John or Sherry has? And I see we got Elba too. When did you show up?
No, that's been very helpful.
I think I'm early.
You're early. Oh, and if we have recorded this, so if any of you missed anything, we'll send the recording out. And we are doing a session tonight at 6:32. Unfortunately, our subject matter expert, I don't think is going to be with us unless we can bend her arm. So Elaine, it'll just be me and maybe Sandy. I don't think Elaine's going to join us. So if you want to come tonight, you're welcome to do that. Not sure how many people we even have scheduled for tonight. But,
oh, hi, Elba. Yeah, it's over, but there is another one tonight, and there is a recording if you want Joe to send you that.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was working with a student.
That's
I'm sorry,
right.
John, too. All right. Well, I guess I try to attend the 6th one. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
All righty. Any other thoughts or questions from anybody before we?
No.
She gets
thank
a
you,
big
Joe.
E for effort.
Yes. You're welcome, John.
Thanks, John.
Sherry,
Thank you, Elaine.
Sherry, thank you.
anything from you, Sherry?
Questions, I'm just, really the biggest thing I saw was just the gallery view.
Yeah, that's the primary item I think that we have. I think just what Elaine was saying about the fact that you don't really notice a lot of things that are happening because they're not necessarily feature oriented, but the fact that they're the capability that we had prior to May 17th when they started to restrict a few things is beginning to come back now. And it's not because they have less users and less sessions, but because they've upgraded their back end stuff and they can start doing that. Their pipelines have to be upgraded, so many different things when vendors get hit by a surge in usage. It can be devastating if they haven't prepared for that scaling.
Mhm.
And thank you, Sherry, for sharing your experience. That was enlightening and helpful.
Oh,
Sure.
Sherry, the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make a point to that. That is something that is fully expected, okay? Especially if you do have one display. Because initially when you start sharing, what it's doing is it's sharing itself because you're still in that Collaborate web browser page.
Mhm.
So what it does is it sees an image of an image of an image of an image, which goes into infinity. And that's what you're calling a rabbit hole, I believe.
Yeah.
As soon as you switch to another application or page, other than that page, that rabbit hole disappears and it automatically shows, like for instance, what I'm showing right now, this document. But if you're in the Collaborate session and that's what is visible to Collaborate, then you're going to see that repetitive infinity image.
I hated that. I hated that until I realized what to do. And I'm like, what the heck? But
You just need to switch to another application.
easy. But I didn't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I figured out how to manage it. It just,
Gotcha.
I don't know, it just seemed like kind of odd. And then the students would all go, I can't.
Yeah.
It's just an issue. But like I said, I try to do everything from campus, and I feel like there's many reasons I do that. I just obviously feel it looks more professional than my back bedroom where my desk is, spare bedroom. So,
Okay.
you know, but I appreciate you, now the understanding, because I was sort of thinking, oh, wow, I thought there were going to be some newer features or more new features. But it makes sense if you said a lot of it is behind the scenes and it's just stuff that now things are working more smoothly and it's better. And I always appreciate those, even though you can't always, see them or appreciate them as much based on new little bells and whistles.
I remember, again, going back to all the sessions we did, and Sandy can attest to this too. In the summer, we actually did our sessions through Zoom, but some of it was sessions about using Blackboard Collaborate.
Yeah.
And from time to time, we had inevitably some faculty that said, I'm using Zoom because Blackboard seems to be more unstable or crashes, and my students have a problem with it. And I think maybe those first couple of months after COVID hit, that Blackboard was, trying to pick up their pieces a little bit. We have not heard as much of that in the last
No.
6 months than we heard in the previous 6 months. So I think that really these changes have been noticeable to us and hopefully noticeable to those of you actually using the platform.
Yeah, I had very little problems with my students. The only issues, and it seems to be like a couple specific students, I think it's just more their issues with their connectivity of their access. Either they have a lot of people using in their house, and just little things like that. Because it's this one student that she seems to always be coming in and out of the session when we're offering that on Wednesday, and I think it's just more her issues with her platform versus, with her access versus anything with Collaborate.
Can be. One of the unfortunate wild cards is simply everybody's connection to the internet wherever they are. Yeah. So not much you can do. Even mine, I got that little pop-up that said your connection is unstable for a while there. So it just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to close the recording and say adios to everybody.